Hi, I'm David Humphreys, and this is the second of a series of videos explaining how to work and how to work with the auction lot analyzer, which is used inside the Property Auction Expert Masterclass. This analyzer is available independently of the Masterclass, but it is used to analyze the lots coming through an auction. And in the first video I gave you an overall view of this analyzer, and now we're going to look at specific areas of it in this second video. And the area I'm going to start with is the listing criteria page, and this lists the auction lot listing criteria that I use for the masterclass. The first 6 items here, the first 6 criteria. I'll then look at the other criteria and why they're relevant and how you can apply them. But let's start off looking at the auction lot listing criteria that we use within the masterclass. The first criteria is a guide price maximum of £100,000 or 100k, and within the masterclass we're not really interested in anything over 100k. The reason for that is that we're looking at lots which we can fix up and which will still come in under the stamp duty threshold, if not even under the 100k threshold, because you can buy lots which have a guide price of, let's say, 40 or 50,000 pounds, and having fixed those properties up, you can probably get a fixed up valuation of less than 100,000 pounds, but certainly you can buy many lots which will have a fixed up valuation under the stamp duty threshold. The next criteria that I apply for masterclass purposes is that the lot must not be above or adjacent to commercial premises. I'm not interested in flats over shops. I'm not interested in flats in or properties in a parade of shops, and the reason for this, the primary reason for this, is that they're difficult to mortgage. I want properties which are easy to mortgage, and some lenders will not lend against properties which are part of commercial premises, in commercial premises, or adjacent to commercial premises. And for that reason we don't look at, or we don't introduce lots that are part of commercial premises into the masterclass selection. The next point that we look at are properties that are not described as derelict. When you go into the auctions, many properties are derelict, although the majority are what are termed distressed or run down. And the principal reason for not choosing properties which are derelict for masterclass purposes, and I stress this, we're talking about masterclass purposes and not general purposes. You may decide to fix up derelict properties, and it's a good strategy. But the reason why I'm looking for distressed rather than derelict is because, having fixed up a distressed property as against derelict, I can split the fix-up costs between revenue and capital, offsetting the revenue element against rental income for tax purposes. There are certain provisos to that strategy, but this is the main reason why I'm looking for distressed and not derelict properties. The next criteria is to look at properties which are described as undermodernized and in need of work. There are a variety of descriptions used to describe properties that need work. Some work, little modification, a little modernization, through to full renovation. I am particularly looking for full gut renovations within the masterclass, and these words, unmodernized and in need of work, are used in the auction particulars. Next on the list is I don't want the property to be adjacent to double yellow lines, traffic lights, or traffic calming measures. And whilst this isn't described as such within the auction particulars, what you can see it in the photographs of the property, or you can go onto Google and see the street that the property is standing in, and I'll come to Google later on in the videos. But But I don't want yellow lines outside, I don't want traffic lights outside either, even if they're pedestrian traffic lights, and I don't want traffic calming measures, i.e. sleeping policemen or chicanes, around the property that I'm going to buy, because it simply devalues it. And finally, on my list of 6 items that I need for listing purposes, if the property is let, it must be on an AST or assured short hold tenancy. This is the only type of tenancy which I'm prepared to entertain. I'm not interested in ground rents, protected tenancies, or any other form of tenancy. It has to be an AST. Again, the reason for that is that unless it's an AST, generally speaking, it's not mortgageable. Now, before I go into the other criteria, I want to show you a website called the eigroup.co.uk and their alert criteria. This is the website, the Essential Information Group, and it is a site that I use all the time for research purposes, and anybody who is serious about buying properties at auction needs to be a member of this site. It costs just over £400 a year to be a member, but it's well worth it. And let me show you why I'm bringing these other criteria in. If I log in to this site, I'm going to look at the auction alert feature. Click on that, and I'm going to scroll down and pick up the West Midlands, which is where the masterclass is based, and come across here and look to edit my West Midlands auction alert criteria. And this opens up a screen which shows all the different criteria that I can tick off and be alerted by. So let's look at quickly a couple of things. I want both freehold and leasehold, vacant, part vacant, and AST, assured short hold tenancy. I could restrict that to protected short hold. I'm interested in looking at because I can get vacant possession, but I'm not interested in registered rents. And what this feature does is to send you emails of any lots which come through the auctions anywhere in the UK. It will send you an email alerting you to that. So here we have all the residential aspects and the commercial aspects, and as you can see, I've ticked the box for no commercial element at all. Then we can roll on down to location, filter by address, filter by region, filter by radius, and we've got the opportunity to go inside, outside the M25 and by area. And then we've also got the facilities for lot selection and tenancy and lease options. But let me get out of this and go back to my listing criteria. So coming to the other criteria, as I showed you in the EI group alert criteria, you can list by postcode, so you can decide that you only want to look at properties coming through the auction in a specific postcode. Again, you can decide on the type of property. You only want flats or houses. You can decide on whether you want to bring in properties which have development potential with or without planning consent, planning permission. Again, it's criteria that you can set within the EI group. Whether you want to look at only freehold or only leasehold or both. Whether you want to look at only repossessions, and finally you can say only new builds. Now, these are 6 more criteria that you can use married up to the EI group alert feature or service. You can of course increase the criteria. To do that, you need to go, assuming that you're going to become a member of the EI group, you need to go to the EI group and look at that alert criteria and decide which criteria you want to apply to your selections. But just to reiterate, for masterclass purposes, we're looking at guide prices below 100,000 or 100,000 pounds and below. We're looking at properties which have no commercial mix whatsoever, not above or adjacent to commercial premises. We're looking at properties which are not described as derelict. I want them distressed and run down, but not derelict. I want them unmodernized and in need of work, and the more the better. The more unmodernized they are, the happier I am. I don't want W lines outside the property, or traffic lights, or traffic calming measures. And if the property is let, I want it AST only. That brings me to the end of the second video, and in the third video we will start to look at the analyzer itself, and we'll start off with the shortlists, and I explain the relevance of each shortlist.